Hi there. Now, according to the title of this video, assuming I've titled it the way I expected, it should say something about calm and aggregation, which is something I've always been meaning to look into a little bit more thoroughly, although I don't know all the details at the time of when I'm speaking to you right now. In fact, what I've done is I've searched online and found yet again an example that looks simple enough that we could possibly break it down and take out only the bits that are relevant for the discussion. Now, what this has to do with what I've spent last night, pretty much all of last night, doing, sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's with this program, my notepad program, which has and had a few problems, which I believe I've fixed now. One of the problems it had came up in the context of this file, which is an XML file. I can open it and read it and everything fine now. Previously, although I could open this file, if I tried to search for something, let's say last mod, right, that I would press this enter or this button and it would just sit there hung, and I'd have to use the task manager to kill it. The reason for that has to do with the fact that this particular file has, as far as I can tell, no spaces and no carriage returns and no line feeds in it whatsoever. There are none. So that means that what you're seeing as I'm scrolling down here is all the same line, but Notepad, this edit control only has a certain width limit, so they automatically. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, the word wrap is off. If I turn that on, I don't know how long this will take. But that's something that is done not by me, but by the edit control, the Windows edit control. So it shouldn't be any different than Windows Notepad. It's not responding, sure. This is another thing that I could put up a little please wait dialog for, especially in the case where it's this type of file. It's 3.6 megs, right? A single one line. You know, how it decides to make cuts on a single line, I think, has to do with whether it's these control characters like colons and slashes, angle brackets, and so on, versus letters. It probably tries to, break it up into words and cut. That's what I would do anyway. Cut it on word boundaries if possible. If not, then you just cut wherever. It doesn't seem like it's going to complete that task. And there's no way to tell how long it's going to take, right? Well, I'm used to this. But I believe that the same thing would happen with Notepad. I hope so. Or else that's another thing I would have to fix. Okay. Word wrap. Oh look, his went blank right away. I wonder what that means. It could be that just has to do with the order. You remember that in order to change from word wrapped to non and vice versa, you have to completely destroy this edit control window and rebuild it again. In my case, well, if anybody knows the answer to this question about this path, the question is the following. You see this? Okay. Now that looks correct. Right. You see that? These have suddenly gone to the wrong side. I don't know how. I did it by pressing a key of some sort. Accidentally I pressed the key that changes this from a left justified to a right justified box. I have no idea where to find out what the key would be and how to change it. If anybody knows that, please let me know. Because I'd like to change it back. Word wrap. And how's this doing? It's the same then, same problem. Word wrap. So style. This is the window. Okay, I'll WM create. Check hiding. So if I get this, now okay, and that's just a function of the edit control. And what that does is first retrieve all of these window long pointers, every possible one that you can get, because the window's going to be destroyed and rebuilt. Get the client rect, get the window rect, create a rectangle object or a window that is the size of the client area. Okay. Why do I wait? Oh, I see. It's positioned at the client top left, but the size is window, so it's like window move to position client. Why? I don't know. This is the size. Anyway, if there's been any subclassing, put the old window procedure back. Otherwise, there's an assertion. The assertion here saying that the window procedure is not within the current executable image. In fact, I could be more specific than that. I should say that when the window proc is equal to the window prompt for a window of class edit. But, if I just create one and look up window prompt, it should be the same. Alright, now all of this stuff is just dealing with these styles, and then create window, set all these things back, set handle, now new old handle, H new old handle. What is the handle to the here? H local is the text data. Retrieving the font. Here I'm allocating just a very small buffer of 64 bytes. After having retrieved the previous handle, then destroy the window. See, because when you destroy the window, it destroys whatever handle to memory it currently owns. So I've replaced that with a dummy thing, which has now been destroyed. So that's why I don't need to remember the return value of this. The hwin knows what it is, and we'll clean that up. Change the style to either auto H scroll or not, and replace these things. Now mhwin would be what would come from here. Okay. This create ex secretly fills in this variable. Now get handle is the current would be the current handle of the brand new window. So I'm about to replace it, so I get the old one, set it to the new one, or sorry, the previous one. Now this is the step that is probably on right now. Still not completed. Because this here is setting the text, right? So given that the style word wrap apparently has to do with this auto H scroll, and that's it. Auto H scroll. Check the help. I have to kill this one as well. So there's nothing unusual in what happened there. Although I could improve on Notepad and put up a little waiting dialog. Automatically scrolls the text. Sorry, I guess I'm wasting your time, aren't I? I'm curious. I worked this out. Okay. It has to do with whether it's multi-line and auto H scroll. If multi-line, if the auto H scroll is specified, scrolls horizontally when the characters pass the rated control. So if not given, automatically wraps the words to the beginning of the next line. So that's your word wrap. And edit control that it's multi-line and not auto H scroll. So that's why you see that scroll bar on the bottom. The reason that's there is because the word wrap is not on. If I turn on the word wrap, there's no need for that. because everything's going to scroll inside the box. It has nothing to do with this status bar, right? The word wrap is a thing to do with whether or not things are going to fit in the box. If I open up something big like this, here's oh yeah, this is quite long. These things are scrolling off the side, and it's automatically handling that for me. It's giving me a scroll bar. This here is saying I don't want it to scroll off the end, just make it wrap. Why that went to the beginning, it shouldn't have. Oh, let's see, it didn't go to the beginning, I thought it did. It's always ends, turns out. I'm not trying to keep it in the same position, I'm just, it ends up being the last line in the box, lowest possible line. But the position, unlike Notepad, which leaves you at position 0, my thing doesn't do that when you toggle word wrapping. So you can always tell if word wrap is on, right? You don't need to check in here to see if this check thing is on or off. You just look here, and if you see a horizontal scroll bar, then word wrap is off. You don't, it's on. Doesn't matter if there's no text. Yeah. See? Alright, anyway. So, yeah, now the problem had to do with, like I said, that thing not being able to search. And that also has to do with this XML. Because it's an XML file, and I still wanted to look at it, I wrote this little XML read program, which this should be printing my little spinner. Why is it not? I've just been working crazily, like crazy, trying to make a little spinner thing. Spinner. Print F. What's wrong with that? This is not a debug thing. Put car. Should be the same. Be in debug mode. Oh, I don't need to do that. XML. This is what it should do. Do it. It's not doing it either. I see. It should be printing out a little thing on the bottom. That's the one. Sorry about that. Let's see now. I just made a change. I might have taken that out accidentally. I did. So I went ahead of file, dot. Oh, here it is. Oh, it just takes forever. Just to get there for the first time. See it doing this thing? Alright, let's try that again. In theory, it should be faster. I just want to see my screen. The problem with programs hanging is something all programmers should be aware of and are constantly thinking of how to indicate that the program's still alive and working. Like, I don't mind now that it's doing this little thing with the X's and O's. I know it's doing something. It's working. It's trying to sort something out. I don't feel so bad anymore. It's not like the program's hung. It's working. And if I've done this a few times, I would probably know how many X's and O's to expect. Without this recorder running and in debug mode, it would have been finished by now. But the recorder is a heavy, it's processor heavy, processor intensive. Heavy, however you say it. It costs a lot. It slows things down quite a bit. What it's doing two things. In fact, I should change from X's and O's to Y's and Z's or something. When it finishes the first task is to parse the XML. The second task is to build one of these tree controls. See, because an XML file is a type of tree, and so visually I'd like to have a tree control, so I make one. I'll show you, it's quite easy to do in theory. What I have in my there's a dialog which hasn't come up yet, it's still busy. It may be on this line. This here is the line where it traverses the tree, the XML tree, starting from an initial node called root, adding nodes as it follows the tree, and then at the same time building a map of what's called an H-tree item. That's a handle to a tree item in a tree control for all the data. And that allows me to do searches within the tree which correspond to some node in this Windows control. This is a Windows control which has an HWin, a control ID, and so on. And see, it has H-tree items for each node is an H-tree item. When this thing finishes, it's slow. I'll have a map of H-tree item and the data element, an XML. Well, a tree, these trees have their position and text But then there's also data. Here's a whole bunch of data associated, well, no, these are more nodes, and here's some data associated with this node on that tree. And how am I deciding on what this string should be? I'm taking that out of the HTML tree and calling get data. Get data on an XML item is the data that appears between. Does it come up? It's come up. See, here are the nodes. Each node has a name. Okay, that's not the data. It's just the name. This bit here is not the name of the node. I don't think. It might be. Because there's also something called parameters for a node. An XML document, this won't stop here. An XML document like this. Oh crap, it's in word wrap mode. Oh, now see, it shouldn't have taken that. Oh no, it's not in word wrap mode, okay. Right. Never managed, thank God, we never managed to get there. I wonder if I should handle that. But anyway, a particular element, right, has its name followed by a space, and these here are parameters, okay? Then there's a closed bracket, and then now here's another node. There's no data associated with that. But then there's something called lock, and that's got a closed bracket followed by some data, right? So this is not within any angle bracket anything. And this could have carriage returns and line feeds and many strings and so on. That's the data part of the node lock. So if you look at this here, here's another node. Doesn't have any subnodes, but it has data, and the data I'm printing out here. So it's a useful little tool. It only took a few seconds to write it. They all have dates, and what this happens to be is torrent sites database, essentially. All of the URLs on that site are in this tree, and the last time it was updated, how frequently it changes, its priority. And I don't remember where I downloaded this from, but I added a search feature to this thing that searches just in the data sections. So suppose I search for something that will come up everywhere, like and. Okay, so anything that's got, I'm not highlighting them, but anything that's got the word and. I search again and it's finding different ones. You'll notice that it's going backwards. In fact, it's not going backwards. It's going, it'll go up and down. Let's try a different word. And something else. There. There, you see it? It went up and then down, up and down. It's not searching in a linear fashion. this is not a linear tree. This is the order in which they came in, but they're not, as far as the tree structure that gets generated when you're reading these things in is concerned. They're not listed in the same order as they appear here. This is how they appear in terms of their position in the tree. But a search, the way I'm doing the search, oh, okay, it may be my own, because I'm using a map, which might be doing some kind of balancing act, and so therefore not storing everything in a linear way, because then it would be slow to search. Instead, it tries to keep it balanced, keeps the data balanced, and my searching is done by do search. I have a map position. If I already have a position, I start from the last position. Otherwise, I get the start position, and I'm then calling get next ASOC and comparing the data. Right? This get next ASOC could be in any order, not the order that the items were read in necessarily. Typically not. In any case, that's how that came up, and I just wasted a bunch of time. And so let me just say again, what I'd like to do is go back to our previous COM example and refresh our memories on this project, COM server. I've already got this new one set up in here. Actually, it's not set up, but it's copied. And remember, this was a math object, right? My server was a thing that's served multiplying or squaring or cubing numbers. This complex calculator project that I downloaded from the internet is also a math server of some sort. And if you look at the complex calculator header file, okay, there's something called simple math, right? Now, I don't know about this iDispatch. That's something to do with ATL.com. It would be nicer, it would be better if we can just derive from IUnknown, everything IUnknown, and forget about the all that dispatch stuff. Here are the functions: query interface, add, wrap, release. Now this type info, again, this has to do with something that I'm not very familiar with. And it's the thing that allows you to take these COM objects and use them with Visual Basic and stuff. However, that's not our goal. Our goal is to understand something called the complex math interface that this person has invented. And this is not the way to look for it. Maybe in here. look like that wrap. Here's I simple math, and here's I complex math. Okay. This is in a funny language that we don't know. But it's clear, the ideas should be clear enough. Forget about the code here, right? Class complex math is interface complex math, and within it, it contains an I simple math interface, right? So in some sense, it must export it may export the I simple math functionality. Whether it does or not, I'm not sure if it's required. Here's I simple math, which seems to have this identifier. What's the identifier for complex math? Here. No. Complex calculator type library. I don't know about these type libraries. This here identifies complex math class, I guess, which is this, I think. Simple E148 blah blah blah. I simple math. F4 something something I complex math. I'm not sure. But you can see that somehow that the simple math and the complex math have been combined into one thing. And there's a DLL that came with this, which I must have not copied in here correctly. I just took the code. There's a DLL called math. Just math.dll. Downloaded it. Where did I put it? I invented a new directory. Not this one. Docs maybe. Oh, here, that's okay. Here, what's this one? Complex calculator. Under calculator, there's a DLL that export. This here defines a COM object. You can know that easily by just if it's the thing that defines a component of some sort. Then it should export 4 functions only. Whoops. Dump. And here they are, the 4 functions. 4 functions. Register and unregister server, get class object, and can unload. Right? Those are the only 4 functions exported by any COM DLL, and you shouldn't require any more. What you know about the class through some hidden mechanism allows you to call its functions unambiguously, just given a pointer that's created by this get class object. Called query interface. You get a pointer, and that this DLL here has something akin to a virtual function table inside, and it calls the correct function. Now this is the complex calculator project I copied. I don't know. I have to work all this stuff out. But best we go back to looking at this thing, math object thing that we have all sorted out, and we can do with or without the use of OLA32. And you'll see that a lot of the stuff in here, this uses ATL, which I'd like to get rid of. But you'll notice that this ATL stuff is very similar to what that guy had. No, it would be in this file. I think. No. Maybe here. Here, one of these header files. There are these classes that MFC has made up that are defined using macros and templates. Here we go. Macros and templates. Now, one thing that we understand, right, is this. This one we took care of. There was something that in the other project, the guy called object root. I'd never heard of this thing before, but he called it object root. Obviously, it must have come from this idea, right? He was just mimicking this ATL structure, and he had a threading model. There were two things derived from this, and it had to be you had to use a virtual inheritance, and we turned that into non-virtual inheritance, and so on. So this part we kind of understand and have dealt with. This stuff, I don't know. I dispatch and all that stuff. These are implementations for a given your object. In order for your object to be able to implement a particular type of interface that has to do with ATL and probably type libraries and all that stuff. I don't know yet. Anyway, that's a heads up, at least. I'd like to just go back to this thing, next video. My server or test server, whatever it was called. Com server. I don't think I still have it registered. This should fail, but I can still load up the project. If you recall from years ago, I invented my own co-create instance, query interface, and all that. And we got a pointer to a math from which we could take square roots, cubes, and squares of numbers. I see. Now, I don't know if I went over this part. You see what I've done here is I've gotten rid of these arrows and turned them into just direct function calls. I don't know if I went over that part in the videos. And I don't even recall doing this, but I did do it obviously. Here is the function release, right? That's function 2, given an interface. That will be the second function in its virtual function table, pseudo virtual function table. And now I'm just calling that function, and I pass in the unknown interface, which, as you recall, is a standard call function, and the this pointer is not passed into the CX register. It's pushed on the stack, so that's why it's being passed in as a parameter here. Similarly for these other functions, right? Okay, I have a macro call and report. Here I'm doing it with the arrow, right? Operator, and here I'm just using a function call where we have to pass in the pointer as the first argument in the function call, and they come up the same. It comes out the same. Okay, well, till next time, we'll go back through this again, and then hopefully on to the next. See you.